Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining Fran and Cooper and Jonas and I today. Oh, did you just hear him cry?
Oh.
Today is a delayed start. And so, first of all, thank you, everyone who is joining us today at the delayed start. I had a meeting I had to attend, and it normally gets over at 1:30. So it ended a little early today, and I was able to get on here and get started. My little Jonas here is a little upset because his daddy just left, and he doesn't like it when we're not together. He likes for all of us to be in the house together, all in the same room, on the same floor, which doesn't always work out for him or for us. But as you will notice, Cooper is literally hanging with Fran today in a sling because Cooper was having a bit of a stressed out day. And so are Fran and I. We have both been a bit frazzled this week since we met with all of you last week. And we're going to talk about mental health today, how it applies everywhere to everyone, but more specifically, how it applies to to our special education families, our special needs families, and how we cope with that and what we do. So for those of you who have never joined a Friday with Fran or have never seen a Friday with Fran, I'm Shelly Kino. I am your host, and I am an education consultant and a master IEP coach, former special education teacher with over 2 decades of experience. I know I started when I was like 1.
Of course.
And Fran is a mom of 2 adult children who have special needs. And Fran, in the last few years, has had some medical situations that have now created her to have a special need or special needs. And so we just get together once a week and we chat and we just talk about things. We're just 2 friends talking. And we hope that you learn something and that we can inspire you sometimes. And so, hi, Fran. Hi, Cooper.
Hi. I think Cooper's calm. Can you see him better now? Look, he's in his sling.
Oh, yeah. He's much calmer than he was. Fran joined me a few minutes before, and Cooper was pawing at her face and was crying, kind of similar to what Jonas is with the little whining. So I'm not really sure what's going on with my little guy today, but it's like I said, I think it's just because my husband just left a few minutes ago and he likes us all to be together. So I also think he's old, and he's like, wait, don't jump. He is 13 years old. So he's getting some aches and pains, as humans do. Animals, as they age, they get some of that stuff as well. So I think he's having to deal with some of that. So Fran and I both have events coming up that we are either attending or, in my case, I'm actually the coordinator for. And I didn't know about Fran's event. And when I asked her earlier today, I said, do you want to talk about mental health today? She was like, yeah, that sounds like a great thing to talk about because of what's been going on and what's coming up for her, and also what's coming up for me. So I don't know. I'll try to stand up. So a couple of years ago, 2018, we lost my daughter's best friend to suicide. And it was devastating, and it still is devastating to all of us who loved her. Her family is still very much in pain. And in order to bring awareness to suicide prevention, as well as mental health concerns, the fall after she passed away, we started doing this awareness walk. In the past, it has been in person. This year, it is going to be virtual. And if you would like to sign up to join us, this is the link, and I will put it in the comments as well, so that you can just click on it in the comments section. But it is October 1st through the 5th this year. and it's $25 for registration. The money is all going to the Swing for Sydney Foundation. Her father started that foundation in the summer after she passed away. And with the COVID stuff, we had an event that we normally do in the spring, and it had to be canceled. And because there was no way to do that virtually, it was a volleyball tournament. So, and in the beginning of all of this COVID stuff, doing anything virtual was not even thought about. So, like I said, if you would like to register, you'll get a yard sign for your house. And each participant in the house will also get a bracelet and a bookmark. And then if you post your picture with one of those items on any of the days, October 1st through the 5th, that you walk, you can only walk and post one day. We're going to do a drawing the next day for the previous days for people who walked. So that way you have up until midnight to walk, because I know Sydney will be turning 21. And a lot of her friends are in colleges, and my daughter being one of them. They have very different time schedules than I have. So I don't want to cut somebody off, if you're going to walk at 11 o'clock around your campus or whatever, that they have the opportunity to do that. And so October 2nd, we'll draw for October 1st, October 3rd for October 2nd. And then you'll receive a cash prize if your name is drawn out. So trying to think if there's any other things. So the website, I think, is really simple to go to and sign up. I will share my screen really quick and show you the website. So this is it. You can see that, right, Fran? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Mental Health Awareness and Memorial Walk. This is our beautiful Sydney. And you can just go to the donate button and it will take you in there. We are wanting to raise $2,500 strictly from donations. And we're a little over a third of the way there, I guess. No, not quite. Over 800 would be a little over a third of the way. So we're getting a third of the way. Also, if you wanted to check out sponsors, if you happen to be a business and you would like to be one of our sponsors, you can contact me and I can tell you what the amounts are for being sponsors. And you can see we have 8 sponsors right now. If you are interested in being a sponsor, once your name is up, just like my sponsors page here, if you touch it, click on it, it'll take you to either the sponsors Facebook page or the sponsors website, and depending on what I programmed in there. And we're also selling, if you're in the area to where I am, we are selling blue and yellow awareness ribbons. Blue is signifying mental health awareness, and yellow signifies suicide awareness. Both of them are $5 each. And all of these things will be available at our village hall the week of the walk. So you can come and pick them up. The bows you don't need to take your picture with, but whatever you want to take your picture with to be in that drawing. And even if you don't want to be in the drawing and you just want to participate and be on the page, we're asking that you put it on the Facebook page with the hashtag Swing for Sydney. If you don't have Facebook, you'll be able to email me, and you'll be able to email me at this address, Shelly. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry, gave you the website, Shelly@ShellyKino.com. And so you'll be able to get the bows, get the send me the pictures, anything you want. If you can't get the information, just email me at Shelly@ShellyKino.com. So I'm going to stop talking about my event that I have coming up. And yes, you missed Jonas.
But look, you can see Cooper. He kind of looks like Jonas.
He really does. And I'm not sure where Jonas ended up. But so for anyone who also wants to help in another way, I am going to, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because, and then I'm going to turn it over to Fran because she has something that she is participating in next Friday. Make sure this is the right. Yeah. Okay. So she is participating in this next Friday, but she's still going to do Friday with Fran with us, but she's doing it from Springfield. So Fran, tell us about this event that you're going to.
Well, it kind of ties in really well to mental health and mental awareness. Our loved ones, especially, okay, when you think of nursing homes, you think of our older loved ones. But in my case, it's my son who is younger. And I know many other parents who have adult children. And then there are even parents who have school-age children that they're unable to see, to visit, to hug, to touch, to have any form of contact with. And they're dying. They're dying alone. There is something called failure to thrive. We shouldn't be talking about failure to thrive with older people. That's something you often hear with babies, and then they're put on supplements and things, but you shouldn't hear that. And another phrase being thrown about now is touch deprivation. I mean, there were studies of that with babies that were in orphanages, that their basic needs were met and that was it. And aside from that, they failed to meet milestones on a typical basis of babies that were loved and nurtured. And our loved ones, our elders, the people that have done so much for society are dying because they're being isolated to death. They're being isolated to keep them safe from a virus. And they may not get the virus, but they're not living because they have no reason to live. So it's called caregivers, essential caregivers. They're people that are essential to these people. And oftentimes it's a family member, and wanting, allowing them to go in to care for their loved ones, to take care of their basic needs, not to wander the building then and to perhaps spread it to somebody else. They would follow the same precautions as everyone else within the building. But we want to be able to be in contact with them. I crave so much to just hold my son and to hug him and to love him. But I understand if that's not possible, I would love to at least be in the same room with him and help him and talk to him. So we're going to go to the Capitol, state Capitol, and just try to raise awareness. So if anyone wants to join us, there's the information. We have a page for, it's called Caregivers for Compromise, and each state has a different page, and it's throughout all the states have a page, as well as there's a national page. You may be familiar, so please, anyone that wants to join in on that day, if you go to that page right there, all of the information you could want is on there. But it's just they have rights, and unfortunately they're not being met in the struggle to balance keeping COVID out and flatten a curve. And I mean, we all have thoughts and opinions on it, but somehow there has to be a way to make it work where they're not going to die alone,
right, and
forgotten.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that note, goodness gracious, this is such a dreary one. Sorry, guys, but it's part of life.
It is, unfortunately. Sorry, I'm answering an email.
It's okay. And also, you can probably stop sharing this now.
Okay.
And also, just as I'm thinking on this, as a parent of children who happen to have different abilities, oftentimes it seems multiplied, the stressors, the worries, the questions that we have for our children, because you feel like you're fighting all the time just for the basics.
Right.
And I think the most important thing I've found is to realize that I can't do it alone. There's no way I can. I have to, and I can't do it from an empty battery.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to where we were talking about care the other week when we were talking about care for ourselves. How do we refuel our batteries? How do we recharge our tanks? And like for me personally, I have to lean into God and trust in Him. And I also have to know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask others to step in to help me, whether it's to watch my children when they were younger, or do you have a moment just to listen? Can I allow it just to get out of me so that I can figure out which way's up? Because maybe I just need a sounding board at this point. You don't need someone to fix your problems perhaps, but you just need a sounding board. And it's so important to realize you're not alone. More than anything, so many people think they're alone. And there's so many resources out there. Don't allow yourself to become so lost and buried within your worries of caring for your child or your loved one who happens to have special needs, that you become so overwhelmed that there is no hope for you, because your loved one can't go on without you.
Right.
Or they can, but they need you, because only you can know their needs.
Right. Yeah. And I think about Sydney's family, but not just her family. I mean, I think about myself. She and my daughter knew each other from the time they were preschoolers or beginning kindergarten. Sydney lived just like a block and a half away from us when we moved into our town. And so they had met. I don't know if you would consider them friends, but I think they were in preschool together for a few months. And so Sydney was here a lot. My daughter was with them a lot. She was like another child to me. And so, of course, it is so much more in depth and deeper for her family than it is for us. But all of us who loved her, and she was loved by so many that she didn't even realize even that she had an impact on. I mean, there were over 1,000 people that attended her funeral and went through the visitation for her. And I think every one of those people changed. I'm not going to say that every one of those 1,000 or more are still hurting today, but there is a huge portion that 2.5 years later are still suffering and still have a loss that we are dealing with and grieving over. And that, I mean, I bring that up because I don't know where Sydney's mind was in the moment that happened. Hang on one second. Put him down. But you know, if she thought that she wasn't loved, or she thought that people would eventually get over it, or that, you know, it wouldn't be so bad, she was wrong. And it's the same way, you know, if you as a caregiver were to end your life, that your loved ones would never be the same. And there would be a lot of things that would go untaken care of, not untaken care of. That was not very good English.
Unattended to.
Unattended to, yeah, like you said. And so we have to be okay with not being okay.
It doesn't mean we're weak when we say we need help.
Yeah. And be okay with reaching out to someone else. And like you said, just, you know, do you have a minute and to listen? Or, you know, I know we can't hug, but, you know, in a time when we could hug, if there's someone in your house with you or at work with you, or, if you're around people that you're comfortable with, and, can I just get a hug? There are hotlines to call. If you don't have someone in your house with you and you don't feel comfortable talking to someone that because you don't want them to know what you're going through, unfortunately, there is still a lot of shame associated with depression and anxiety and bipolar and PTSD and whatever. Did I say depression? All of those things. Suicidal thoughts don't necessarily have to be in someone who has a diagnosis of depression or has a diagnosis of anything. So I'm going to let Fran talk for just a minute, and I'm going to see if I can't pull up I think it's an 800 number. And there was a number to text too.
There is also. I was going to say that because some people are more comfortable texting. You don't want to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I want to tie this also into how it's affected even my family, because medication is some people are like, well, you got to do it all natural. Some people are, let's medicate everything. And for me, I'm trying to find a happy medium in that, and finding that balancing act. With my son, it's been a matter of psychotropics have actually caused adverse reactions. He's gotten aggressive where he was attacking people at school. And it was like, he's never hit anybody in his life. And all of a sudden he was attacking his aide who had the most tender heart. And I have to give her kudos for sticking with him through that school year, because it was a tumultuous year, and his teacher, they stuck it through knowing it was meds. It wasn't my son.
Right.
But there isn't a magic something that's going to fix it. It takes work, but you're not alone. And it's a matter of knowing that you have a support team and finding them. And so Shelley's posting in the comments different numbers that people can reach out to. I guess it's obviously on both of our hearts right now. Don't give up, especially with this COVID thing. People are just giving up so much. They're feeling so alone, as we're being told, stay at home, shelter in space, don't go out. People need people. Even if it means, if you think of someone, give them a ring, say, hey, I was just thinking of you. And sometimes people are worried, okay, I'm going to get stuck on the phone. Tell them, hey, I only have a few minutes. I was thinking of you. Do you need a dump? Do you need to talk? Do you want to just jibber jabber? Can I be there for you in any way? Or, hey, I fixed something. Can I just drop it off on your porch and wave at you? I'll stand back on the road and wave at you. There are so many ways to make a difference in someone else's life. And when you do that, it actually helps your own mental health, because you're taking your eyes off of your inner and your struggles for a moment, and you're helping someone else. And for me personally, I know that helps me reboot, for lack of a better word, and go, okay, yeah, life looks pretty cruddy right now, but I was able to help this person.
Right.
And I could do that. Okay. So, and even if I dive back in and get lost again, then I got to reboot. And it's okay to fail too. It's okay to slip up. It's okay it's a matter of just going, okay, where do I go from this step forward?
Right. And go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just, even as we're sharing this, I just want people to know, please, this isn't professional advice. This is just from my heart. This is from our hearts. This is from our own life experiences. And it's amazing what your story can teach somebody else. I saw a post one day that said, your story is someone else's survival guide.
That's
and
good.
I was like, whoa, okay. I don't know if I hope no one else has this needs this type of survival guide, but I thought, what really does that mean?
Right.
So each of us has a purpose and an importance. You were going to say something, Shelley. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I was trying to find that information, and what you said about, each story is someone else's survivor guide. You and I both have attempt stories. Mine was in high school. There had been just a lot of things going on with my personal life, but mostly things that were going on in my brain that I had irrational thinking, and I had incorrect thinking about many situations, and just came to a point where I just didn't want to deal with them anymore. And for me, and I obviously can't speak for anybody else, it was that I just didn't want to face it anymore. It wasn't that I wanted to die, because I got the permanence of dying. I didn't want to live one more day and have to deal with what I was dealing with. Praise God that my attempt was that I was not, that wasn't the end of my story. And I have shared this with my daughter. Otherwise, I would not be sharing it here. But I've also shared it with dozens of people who were at the same age. My husband and I were youth group leaders for several years. And now that, I was a teacher, and I've kind of followed some of my students over the years, and then doing this mental health awareness walk for the last couple of years, sharing how amazing my life is now, and how never in those moments back in 1988 did I think that I would be able to get through what I was going through, come out on the other side, and be so vastly better than what I was. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a matter of days or weeks or months. It's been a continual process. I still have to catch myself if I start having some negative thoughts or some irrational thoughts again, and say, nope, that's not me. I'm not accepting that stuff. I have Christ in me now. And to be perfectly honest, he has been the biggest help to me. And there's so many reasons for that. But I think the main one is just when I realized the amount of love that he has for me as an individual person, and the suffering. I mean, when we had our youth group, my husband gave a lesson on what Christ, the physical pain part of, people know he died on a cross, and that in itself is excruciating. If you ever look that up, and you find out what that does to your body, and how that's constantly, torturing you. So that in itself is bad enough, but even the things leading up to it, the carrying the cross, the being whipped with the cat o' nine tails, and yet all of that pain and suffering he didn't deserve, but he loved me enough that if I had been the only person on the planet ever in history, he still would have done that for me so that I could have eternal life. And to show me how much worth I have in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But the great part of that story is it isn't just for me. And you have that belief as well, that it's also for you, and it's for any person who would accept that. But when I really got a hold of that, and I really thought about that someone would do that for me, that I wasn't worth less, that I had worth, and I had a reason for being here. And until it's my natural time to go, I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. That's a very, thank you. That's very powerful to know that you have worth and you have purpose.
Yeah. And every person listening now or listening to the replay, and even everybody who doesn't, there's a reason you're here. There's a reason you are here. You might not know what it is. You might not find it tomorrow or the next day or in the upcoming weeks or months or years. You may never know what your purpose is, but there is a purpose for you being here. And Fran and I are here to encourage you to hold on to that and to remember that. And, as I said at the beginning, we're just two friends. I'm a special education teacher. Fran has multiple degrees, but we are not counselors. We would be happy to, have you ask us some questions that, we could encourage you, but we are not the professional help that you might need. And my show on Tuesdays is #NoLimits. Don't limit yourself with who you get your help from, or that you even will reach out and get help from anyone. Because I was hesitant to do that. And I know many, many people that are hesitant to reach out to some counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists or social workers, whatever title you want to use. But it's very important. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your reason for needing that help is. It's important for you to reach out and not try to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to take medicine, then you have to take medicine. Not everybody does, but it's okay.
And sometimes it's not a lifetime of medicine. Sometimes.
Right.
Okay. I'm glad you brought the medicine up. It reminds me, and it's so unfortunate, but I'm grateful that it's becoming unstigmatized, slightly becoming unstigmatized. But if a diabetic needs insulin, no one is going to tell them, don't take your insulin. Just figure it out. It's all in your head. Just make it work. And unfortunately, so many people have heard, well, that's just in your head. Why would you need medicine? You're just trying to ignore it. No, sometimes the medication helps you be able to bring it to a level where you can then process. It gets you off the cliff. It puts you onto the mountain, and you're able to process and not be standing on the edge of the cliff going, I'm done. There's nothing left. So why should I even try to process?
Right.
So I just so much wish there was the stigma would go. And I as we're talking of the stigma, I think of parents who happen to be raising children who have different needs. Not only do they have this, if they're dealing with feelings of worthlessness and depression, a lot of parents even end up with PTSD from watching their child go through multiple medical things and the struggles they go through. It's actually, I've seen some documented studies on it. I don't have any offhand, the titles, of parents that have watched their children go through it, and or they lose a child through medical, and yet they still have other children. Don't give up, and ask for help. It's okay. It is okay to ask for help. And I'm laughing because I'm terrible at it. I'll admit it. I'm horrible at it. I'm the first one. I was with a friend today. Can you share that screen?
I can. Yep.
Please. I purposed to blur that, but this is my calendar for the month. I was with a friend today, and she was like, "Fran, you just need to learn to be still." And I'm like, I don't have time for that. That was my answer. I don't have time for that. And if you look at my calendar, okay, so the beginning of my calendar has like lots and lots of things, and I color code. That's how I get through life. My calendar, I color code things. But my outer shell seems to be failing at this point, in essence, my body. So I have multiple doctor's appointments, and I have multiple things going on. But if you look at the bottom of the calendar, that's what my calendar used to look like. But at the top, you can see like there's line after line after line on a day. And actually, some of those, there's not all the lines show because there were just too many lines. So they just put little dots on there too.
Right.
So I was like, so how am I supposed to be still? And she's like, well, do you really want to know? I was like, okay, yeah, I already know that one. She was telling me
I do, but I don't.
She was just telling me to stop, to breathe, even just to stop and breathe. And to assess, is everything that I have on my calendar, should I put it all in there? I have to learn to say no. I have to learn to say not at this time, maybe. Because I can't help others from an empty cup, as we talked about receptacles the other day, from an empty with empty batteries. And I think society prides people that show that they're busy, that they're doing. It puts them above someone who says, I took a retreat and I did nothing. She got it in. I took a retreat.
That should just be a banner along with Friday with Fran. We're just going to add balance in there.
But I just so how do you be? How do you be still? How do you prioritize? How do you know when you have, so you have a medically involved child who also happens to have lots of educational needs, and you happen to have some medical needs. Plus you have maybe a typically developing child at home who is involved in multiple traveling sports teams. Plus you have a husband or a wife who is working and has other needs. How do you find a moment to be? How do you do that? And we talked about it briefly the other day. Well, not briefly, but we did talk about it some. But I think it's a matter of you have to make a conscious decision to be. And I don't know if I can do that right now, because if I take a moment to be, sometimes I'm afraid of what I'm going to find when I take that moment.
What do you mean, what you're going to find?
I don't know. What am I going to find of myself as I take a moment to be? Am I going to find what am I? So for me, sometimes it's easier just to go rather than to be. I'm not saying what I'm doing is healthy, but for me, it's like, I don't know if I want to be. I don't know if I want to take a moment to rest in who I am as a child of God, who I am as a mom, who I am as a person whose outer body is failing in who knows how many ways. I went from not having any type of doctor's appointments to this week I'm sorry, this is going to become a woe is me moment, but just for a second, I went to Monday, I went to this many doctors. The next day, Tuesday, I went to a doctor. The next day I went to this many different appointments that were
Wow.
involved with my medical health. The next day, this many, I think.
Wow.
And today I've already been to, I should have had this many, but I canceled because I just couldn't fit them all in. So that's
So that
just
was 12 doctor's appointments.
and that's not counting that my daughter had a doctor's appointment this week. She had this many.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think. Yeah, so and that's just my daughter, myself. Oh, and my son had an appointment. I mean, yes, I'm not involved taking him, but he had an appointment this week.
Right. Which,
So I'm like, so
if
how
it
am I
hadn't-
supposed to be in the midst of all this? But somehow we have to make that choice, and I realize that I have to make a choice and say, okay, Fran, in this moment, you're gonna have to figure out how to be.
Right. And I think it is something that you need to schedule, because
What color do you want me to make it?
a very peaceful green or blue is another peaceful color.
Blue's on there a lot.
Okay, then you can't do blue.
Green was Girl Scouts, but right now we haven't been able to meet because it's all virtual.
Right. So it's the reason I think it has to be scheduled is because as humans, we're going to find reasons why we can't. And for me, if it's on a schedule, then I put more priority on it, so that, because I'm a check off, hey, I did that today. And so for me, that's going to help me actually take the time. There was a time in my life when we could afford, actually it was like 12 years ago, because my husband gave it to me for our 15th wedding anniversary. He gave me a massage a month. And that was amazing. And I found a way to, because I had to drive like 30 minutes to where the place was, and then the hour for the massage. And then, and I found a way to block that time out, because I don't know why I just said that word that way, but to block it so that I could have that once a month. And sometimes I would go in and the masseuse and I would talk. And sometimes I'm like, I'm done. I can't talk anymore. Just, here are the places that I need you to work on those places. And then I wouldn't talk for an hour. And most of the time I prayed if I wasn't having a conversation. Now, like I said, that was at a time when we could afford that. We can't afford that now, but I can still block off. And there's a lake near where we live, and I can block off a time and I can just go sit. I can't swim, but this lake is very calming and very peaceful to me. Just looking at it, I love to look at nature, so I guess that's what it is. But just once a month, so the self-care, Alex says, when are you going to take time for yourself? When does Fran get taken care of? And she also says giving to others is often helpful to self, but at what expense? Take time to just sit with self and evaluate. And there isn't always, an expense necessarily involved, but that's why I'm saying it has to be something that gets put on your calendar to do. If it's just stay in the shower an extra 5 minutes and just let the water wash over you. Or, that could be, Alex again suggested just 5 minutes can make a difference. And she's right. So if you're in the shower, or if you take a bath, and if the water's the comfortable temperature for you and you stay in there an extra 5 minutes, you don't just get in, hurry up, get done, get out. What was that?
Sorry about that. I thought my phone was on vibrate, but apparently it's, oh, I'm so sorry. New phone makes weird noises, obviously.
That's okay. But, Yeah. I mean, I know that like kind of last week we talked about communication and we talked about, the mental health stuff. A few weeks ago when we talked about the cup, we talked about, taking care of yourself in that regard as well. And as you can probably tell, while it wasn't intentional on our part to sort of weave mental health into almost every of our conversations, and even like this one is specifically focused on it, it's very important to both of us because we have both struggled with having good mental health. And we want to be forthcoming with that information and let others know that it's okay, and if you have a bad day, that doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad month or a bad year. And it also doesn't mean that you are depressed if you have a bad day here and a bad day there and a bad day, 6 months later. You can have bad days no matter what your personality type, what you're involved in. And it's okay to acknowledge those feelings and recognize those feelings and express those feelings. And there's, you can write those feelings. Who was I? It might've been you, Fran, that was telling me that they write stuff down. They make up an email sometimes, like if, they don't put anything in the to subject or to line. Mm-hmm. And then, they just kind of let it sit there for a day or two until it just helps them sort of get stuff off of their mind. And then they go delete it, it's not like it was going to go anywhere because it didn't have a to in the anyone. But so that wasn't you, that was someone else I was talking to. Okay. Yeah, at this time of the year, the last 3 years, mental health has been a big thing on my mind. So I find myself talking about it a lot to a lot of different people.
But I did share something there you can show people.
Okay. I didn't even see it.
Okay,
that was
look.
Like a nice peaceful spot.
I took a moment. In the midst of all those appointments I had that one day, we were in the big city near us, and I was able to go to their Central Park area, and they had this really neat little trail there. So I actually packed a lunch on the back of my chair and was able to go sit at a bench and zig and zag. And so I did take a moment.
That's good. That's good. Alex and I are proud of you that you did.
But it's true. It's amazing just taking a moment in nature. Even, okay, let's say we're in this was in the middle of a city and we were able to find this, but
right.
Even let's say, well, okay, I live in rural America, so maybe that I'm not the greatest example about, I can step outside and I'm in the country, but there's got to be a way to find some form of green somewhere, a moment just to find nature in some way. And it's amazing how that can just reboot you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even in the, like I have family who live in Indianapolis and in Chicago, and we have friends that live in big cities in California and pretty much anywhere in the country. Since my husband's former military, we know people all over the place. And even in the big cities, you can find a patch of grass. It might not be right outside your door, but even if it's just a 1 foot by 1 foot patch of grass, and just to touch that, or to stand on that barefoot. I mean, there are actual. Aww.
He was asleep, but he had his head tucked.
There are actual scientific studies that have been done about touching nature, touching grass. And how a lot of our kids we have done a disservice to, because when I was a kid, I ran around outside without socks and shoes on. We don't let kids do that anymore because we just don't let them do it. We don't let kids eat dirt, which I'm not necessarily saying like go have a handful of dirt.
But pies are the best.
But there is good effects from nature. Just going outside. And, again, in a very populated area, this would be a little more difficult to just listen to the nature noises. If you can hear a bird chirping, if you can hear waves lapping, if you can hear the wind rustling through the leaves, if you can, or well, I guess you don't hear the wind. I guess you hear the leaves rustling. But if you can just for just a minute or two, and I can only imagine that is very difficult if you are a single parent and you have a child who has a lot of needs, to even take just 1 minute, because during that 1 minute, I can imagine some people being very, very fearful that something is going to happen because there aren't eyes on that loved one for that 1 minute. But maybe it would be something that both of you could do together for a moment. But I know this is a very heavy topic. But we have to take care of ourselves. We have to get rid of the stigma that not having good mental health 100% of the time is in our heads, but it's not made up, and that's what people, when they say, oh, it's just in your head. Well, you're saying it's imaginary or it's something I have control over, and I don't. And it is real. So helping people to step up and step out, keeping, awareness alive, doing things to try to help, like what you're going to do next Friday by, going to our legislators and saying, we have to do something. These family members, it breaks my heart when I hear you say how many days it's been that you've seen Luke. Or when I hear of people who are in the long-term care facilities and they haven't seen their loved ones in months, or recently someone I know had said that their parent is in a long-term care facility and they had been able to go and stand at the window, and the facility could open the window and they could talk to their loved one through the window, and their loved one was able to look at them. Well, their loved one has recently been moved to a different room, and in the different room, that window has an air conditioner unit in it. And so they can't open the window anymore, and that room has a roommate, and the loved one can't be positioned to face them anymore because of the roommate. So they're like, now, it's like we're not even there. I mean, we're yelling, through the glass, but the loved one doesn't have the ability to turn to that side where the window is now. And so, who knows what they were thinking? Like, okay, I'm hearing voices, which is not a good thing. So we have to be able to, like you said, even if you don't get to hug your son, if you could just be in the same room with him, and be 6 feet apart, just to see his beautiful smile, to hear his voice, for him to be able to see you and see your beautiful smile and to hear your voice. I don't know what the right answer is either exactly, because we want to honor those who are at risk for getting the virus. But we also need to figure out a way to honor those who need that. To have the touch deprivation and the failure to thrive, like you said at the beginning of this, that used to, we use those words for infants who are in orphanages in other countries that just don't
have the resources
to give what they need. This is America. We have the resources. We need to find a way to make this better. And I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, it is an important issue. Alex says it's heavy, but oh so important. And Alex, you're welcome. You said thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing your balance, insights, and your ideas. And we very much appreciate you for being with us.
Violet, thank you.
Yep. I don't know if she's
For
been with us
joining
the
us.
whole time, but
Okay.
yeah. So
I can't. May I say one?
Of course.
Anything?
Yep.
I
You got 4
just
minutes.
want.
You got this many minutes.
Oh, it's not going to be that long at all. I just want to say, you are important. You matter. You make a difference. And even if you're unable to do anything in the world's eyes, but just be, that is your purpose. Don't give up.
Amen. Yeah. Somebody is going to learn from you rather than maybe you doing something. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. We both hope that you have been encouraged and inspired by this message. It is one that needs to be talked about and talked about frequently. And it is one that, as I'm sure you could tell, is very heavy on both of our hearts and very important to both of us. And on Tuesday, I will be doing the hashtag No Limits, and I will have the first official guy on the show. That sounds weird. I will have on the show the first official guy. Maybe that's the way to word it. We've had Greg with us before, but I wasn't officially doing it as hashtag No Limits. So Dennis will be the first guy to officially be on hashtag No Limits. That's the way to say it. Phew. I mean, grammar was really weird there. So he is the father of a grown son with autism, and he's also a financial planner who specializes in special needs trusts. And getting to know him in the last 6 or 8 months and what he does and all the little aspects of preparing your child for their future financially has been very enlightening to me. And so I hope you will tune in. It will be at 1:00 to Central Time on Tuesday. And then next Friday, Fran will be joining us from the Capitol.
Remote.
And I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. We might be just talking about how things are going where she is and kind of what the atmosphere is like and, just things like that. But, we'll come up with something because we can both talk.
Really?
Oh, you hadn't noticed that yet?
No, never.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us again. I'm Shelly Kino, education consultant and master IEP coach. Joining me is my friend Fran, and we are making the world better for all, one person, one IEP at a time with limitless possibilities. Have a great weekend.
Bye.